I'm Tim Robards, and this is Just Tack. What's going to happen in the future? I was having a shower with my shirt off, so I became the old man eye candy or something. I don't know. I'm like, no, that's not what my character would do. We've just been locked out of the state. And I'm like, what? One of the hardest decisions I've ever made.
Before we get stuck into today's conversation, I want to thank the official beauty partner of Just Tack, beautyboat.com. They have supported us from the very beginning, and they are stepping into this new era with us. Whether you are looking for Egyptian Magic Beauty Cream, the By Terry and Tan Luxe ranges, or their legendary Discovery boxes, they curate absolute Tier 1 products. For our longtime listeners, the legacy code is still active. Use BIN25, BIN25 at checkout for 25% off your entire order. Head to beautyboat.com today, and thank you for supporting the brands that support this platform. G'day, g'day, g'day. This is Just Tack and Tim Robards. I'm your host, Takaya Honda. It's always funny saying that. You probably know him from his time on Neighbours, or his massive fitness background. Or maybe you've seen him sweating it out on a Peloton bike for a global audience. We covered a lot of ground in this one. We get right into the physical toll his career takes, that brutal catch-22 we actors constantly face with social media, and what it's actually like when you have to hand your character over to another actor. But honestly, the bit I'm most excited for you to hear about is his behind-the-scenes breakdown of SAS Australia. He exposes the unbelievable lengths producers went to fabricate a storyline about his performance. Let's just say it involves CGI and a magically disappearing rope. You have to hear him tell the story. It's pretty great. Also, hearing about Zima's accident from his perspective is really interesting. Now, speaking of invisible ropes pulling the strings, the algorithms on these apps prioritize 10-second clips over actual long-form conversations. So if you value real talk over clickbait, do us a favor and hit follow or subscribe on whatever app you're using right now. It does really help us a lot. And if you want to bypass the algorithm completely and be the actual support line for the show, jump onto our Patreon. It's the most direct way to keep the lights on and help us grow. The link is right there in the show notes or description. All right, enough self-promotion. Let's get into it. This is Just Tack and Tim Robards. How you going, Tim?
Getting through life, but all somewhat positive things. Nothing I can't handle, but it's a good test when you feel a lot of heavy weight on you, and to try and just constantly shed the weight and feel a little bit lighter. I'm working on it's now more than ever, keeping a balance in my life, having my exercise, my time to switch off, balancing everything. I just went to a little retreat for 2 days. It was kind of work, but it was still nice. I was in nature, and it was just nice to get that balance. But yeah, it's life's hectic at the moment, but good.
You've got 2 kids. How old's Ellen Ruby now?
2 and 5. Yeah, Ruby's 2 and Elle's 5. She's at she started a big school. Ruby's at daycare.
How do you manage that balance? Like, how do you find the time? Like, 'cause that's something with me, because I'm staying at home. Well, Amy works 3 days a week, so I'm usually with Ari, and Ari only goes to daycare twice a week, usually, depending on how many interviews I've got. And but finding that time, I guess, organizing with Anna as well on her schedule as well, how you both can find time for yourselves and find that balance. Trying to get time for the gym. Like, I haven't gone to the gym for 6 months, partly because of injuries, but partly because then I look at, when am I going to find that? How did you manage finding that balance and negotiating it?
Off the bat, I'm lucky we do have some daycare now in school. But before that, we used to have Elle at daycare for like 3 days, kind of like you do a bit of a split. And but now we have a little bit more coverage, which helps a lot. Anna and I have our diaries synced. So we see each other's diaries. We've got stuff. We're both doing, like, our careers, I guess, like, are just so different. 1 minute I'm getting up, doing a run for Peloton. Next day I'm working on Elle Wines. Next day I've got auditions in a movie or whatever. Like, there's just so different, which I love. But there's no routine to it. So stuff can be everywhere. So same with Anna. It is exactly the same. So
And most people from the outside would go, you guys are lucky you can like put things wherever you want. It's like, no, no, no. If you have a regular schedule, then you can plan around it. When you don't have a
Yeah.
regular schedule, you're like, I don't know whether I can do this next week or not.
Yeah, it's hard. I wouldn't give it up, but it is hard. And then the thing is, you find that you're working weekends, you're working at 10 o'clock at night all over the place, which I'm not whinging about, but you're just always kind of on, and I've got to remember that when I'm doing stuff with my Elle Wines company, I've got people that work with me and I'll be messaging them on like, I won't realize it'll be like Saturday night. I'm like, hey, I'm like, oh shit, not everyone's working at this stage or at this time of the day. Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to ask, did you name Ruby Ruby so that you could have a red wine?
I think subconsciously it was in there. I was like, it works really well, and I love the name. And if I ever make a red, I'm set.
But how's Elle Wines going anyway? I mean, you just won an award, didn't you?
It is really nice to have something like say, working in social media, I get a lot of brands come to me and, you turn a lot of them away, but ones that align with me, I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah. I either already using the product or they'll introduce me to the product. I love it. And I go, right, I'm happy to promote this because I enjoy it. I would never promote anything I don't enjoy. But yeah, having your own brand and making something, and never Elle Wines, like Elle Rosé, never really started as an idea of a business to make money. It was just, initially it was the day my daughter was born. I'm holding her. I'm like, I want to make something in your name. I'm full of oxytocin and love chemicals. And I'm like, how can I? And I'm like, Rosé, it's about the size of her right now. And it brings people together and I love it. It's feminine and it's beautiful and it's shared times. It was all those feelings I was feeling right then. I'm like, right, I want to make a rosé in her name. And then I'm like, Elle Rosé, that just works. I'm going to do it one day. So over 3 years, established the right team, brought them together. And part of it then was like, if I'm going to do this, I want to do this well. I want to make something that she'd be proud of. It's not a tacky kind of like, get this, make some money quick or anything. I want to make something that's really nice that maybe I could pass down to her. If other people respond well to it, you never know, it could turn into a business. But right now I want to see what I can do from just making something that I really enjoy drinking. So I normally enjoy drinking French rosé, the likes of, Miraval, Axe, Whispering Angel. They were my sort of inspiration. And so pulled the team together and I said, right, can we make something like this in Australia? Because a lot of Australian rosé just doesn't quite hit the mark. It's too sweet, it's too red, it's too whatever. They get creative. And a lot of Australian rosé is a secondary thought. It's like they go, oh, we've got a bit of leftover Shiraz, let's make a rosé out of it. It's not, they don't come, not all of them don't come from how do we make the best rosé first? It's a secondary kind of bit of this, let's make it. So we came at a rosé first. How do we make a rosé that competes with the French? We basically, the first year we did 1,000 bottles and tasted it. And we're like, this is actually pretty damn good. And then we sold out pretty quickly. And then I'm like, okay, people are enjoying it. This is good. So let's double down. Let's make 6,000 bottles year 2. Meta ads was getting it out there using Meta is a very expensive exercise. We sold 6,000 bottles. Didn't make much profit, but we got it out there and people love it. That's the best thing. When the thing that tells me that we're doing well is we won a gold medal in the Australian New Zealand Boutique Wine Awards, which is basically it's blind tasted against 100 different rosés from across Australia and New Zealand, and we won a gold. So that was unreal for a wine in its second year competing. That was unreal. And then this year we've just gone, okay, let's double down again. Let's make 12,000 bottles. So it's a little bit scary. So, because with wine, you can only make it once a year. It's not like a spirit where you can make it on consumption. Oh, we're selling a lot, let's make more. It's once a year. You've got the grapes. You've got to kind of commit and then hope you can sell them that year. But this year, we just went into the World Rosé Masters competition in London. Mm-hmm. And we just won a silver award on the international stage, blind tasted against 200 of like the world's best. And one of the best things there was that the other company that we won silver alongside was AIX and Miraval. So they're the two of the wines that inspired us. Like, it's one of the best rosés in the country now to do that after 3 years for someone who's just come into it. But I think having a clear vision, getting the right team and doing that really helps. And to have something that I can be super proud of, that I've to put my daughter's, if I'm going to put my daughter's name on it, it's not, because some people have, one person wrote once and go, oh, they call it influenza wine. It's just someone spruiking wine, trying to, this influenza wine, better off to tip it down the drain. They never tasted it, but they wrote this like comment on my post. There are a lot of people who go, is this just some sort of grab for cash? Do you know what you're talking about? But I've had to learn a lot quick, and I don't proclaim to, know everything about wine, and I'm not the master brains behind it, but I know what I want to drink, and I brief them and brief the team, and that's what I want to try and do. Come here, stay quick. Hi, this is Ruby. Hi, Tak. Say hello. You're gonna sing.
I like your hair.
What's your favorite song you were singing the other day? Umbrella. Can you sing it? Under my umbrella.
Ella.
She's a beautiful singer.
That's such good singing.
Yeah.
Ella.
She's going to be a little performer too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just before this, I had both of them sat down watching Top Gun Maverick. Yeah, I throw it on, I've cranked the sound, and I'm like, and she loves it. She watches, I probably show her stuff that's a little too old for her, even though Top Gun Maverick, it's good, wholesome family, but like
planes and
yeah. She loves it. Loves a grown up movie. So,
yeah, well, they all do. I mean, I remember talking to one of my drama teachers / a great director in Australia for play, the theatre, and he was like, kids want the nightmare they know they'll wake up from. So when they go to the video store, well, it used to be the DVD store, now it's, I guess, swipe through a Netflix, they want the scary show. They want the horror thing because they want to go through the scary stuff knowing that they'll be okay in the end.
Yeah.
But some of that scary stuff is a little too scary.
Yeah, you just want to give them nightmares. That's the one thing you're like, I train a bit with Taron Egerton and at the gym, and he's been in town, and he came over the other week. I had to look after his neck and helped him out and stuff, and Elle met him, and then so after that we were like, I was showing her some stuff. I was like, oh, that's Taron on, this. And then Apex, the movie, was there. And I said, oh, do you want to just have a little look at this? And then we ended up watching most of Apex, apart from the scary bit in the middle, which with parental supervision, it's really just one dude chasing a girl through the bush. But there'd be bits I'm like, hey, don't look at this. But generally, maybe that was probably not the best thing for a 5-year-old. But
it's contextual too, because she's watching someone she's met.
Because the interesting there is that, she knows now it's not real and it's an actor. And that's been funny with a couple of things that I've done. From Italy with Love, I had put it on for her at home and started watching the first little bit. Then I jumped in the sauna and I came back about an hour later and she was bawling. And I'm like, what's she crying for? Is it because dad's with like another girl? Is she worried about that or what? And it was just after the scene in the thing where I come up, I've got some flowers, I'm going to see this girl I've fallen in love with and tell her how I feel. And then I overhear her saying something, it'll never work. And then I get heartbroken and walk away. And it was just after that. And I thought I'll play it out and watch the rest of it with her. And then at the end, when they finally come back together, she was so happy. And I'm like, oh, okay, no, she's actually bought into the movie,
the story,
and was the story and the characters. And, and then after that, because she's like, so is it? And there was another one, I did a short film recently and I was playing an asshole. She's like, why are you being so bad, Dad? Why are you being so bad? And I'm like, it's acting. So I had to go, I said, right, how do I get her to understand this? So we go, right, let's pick Avatar. Let's redo this scene out of Avatar, the first bit. And so I filmed her, she filmed me, and we went back, forth and did the talking scene. And then I edited it together and made it into a little movie so that she understood what acting was. So when you are watching something that's a little bit scary, it's not real. That's just an actor like you, like me, So that's been not all kids, I guess, would get that, but she kind of understands that, which is good. One of the first times that actually caught me was I had my laptop and I was just sitting there and I was going through some old folders and I saw old videos, and one of them I clicked on it and it was the scene from me and Benny Turland when he was dying on Neighbours in the hospital bed, and I'm there and I'm just kind of watching it, and Elle just walked up and sat beside me. I didn't think anything of it, and I might have said like, oh, there's Dad, and then we're watching and I looked down and she's bawling. And I'm like, what? And she's like, he's dying and you're sad. And I was like, oh man, whoa. Yeah. Whoa. I didn't realize like she actually thought this was kind of like a real scene and was really buying into the emotions of the scene and feeling for those people. And so part of me was like, well, it must be good acting if it's sold a 4-year-old at the time. Yeah. Also, I've got to explain this. We need a bit of parental guidance on this. But it was, yeah. So, yeah, it was interesting.
Last time we chatted on Tack Talks, you talked about a psychic who told you that you'd be an actor, and that kind of got you off your butt to get lessons and stuff. Have you been back to the psychic?
Yeah, I have actually.
You have.
Yeah.
What was the update?
He talks a lot about what's going to happen in the future, but I don't necessarily take it for granted or be like, okay, this is going to happen. But I feel like there's some sort of, in a spiritual way, there's a message I need to hear. And whatever that makes me do now, whatever I decide to do with that information, I feel like I'm meant to hear it for a reason. It's almost like it could be a message from a past ancestor, a message, something, but I'm meant to hear it. And whatever I decide to do with it, it's information that if I didn't go there, I wouldn't have. And it's going to in some way affect what I'm going to do in the future. And, some of it you pay attention to, some of it you don't. But like the acting one said, I'm going to be an actor. So I was like, all right, well, I better learn how to act properly. I was doing like little bits of acting lessons here and there, but I'm like, I better commit to this then. If that's where I'm going, it's what I want to do, but I didn't believe it in myself to really commit to it properly. So I committed to it after hearing that was just that little bit I needed. And then 6 months later, I'm working full time on Neighbours for a couple of years, and it's funny when you get to the point you're at the airport and you fill out occupation and you can actually go actor. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, that's kind of cool. That's what I do full time. And that's what I've always wanted to do. And now I can write that with, believing it.
Are you still practicing as a chiropractor as well?
I gave that up last year. Moved up to the Gold Coast for 7 months, and because I moved, you lose your patience, and I couldn't set up there, so kind of finally made the decision to give that up professionally. So it's a little bit sad, but at the same time, kind of good. I remember, Arnold Schwarzenegger always says one of his core 7 things is like, get rid of your plan B. So I don't look at it as a plan B, like if acting doesn't work, I'll go back to chiro full time, but it is just a part of who I am. I am a chiropractor and I always want to be a chiropractor and be able to help people and help friends. But there's also a level where the government agencies go, you can be one while you're registered and while you keep up your education, blah, 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 blah. And if you don't do a certain amount of hours in the year, then you can't keep that up. So I was like, all right, I'll give into that. I can treat family and friends for free. I just like to do things that I'm passionate about. And I really believe like if you do things that you're passionate about and you're good at them, eventually you might get paid for them, or at least you'll be happy in life, even if you make no money from them. At least you're somewhat happy rather than doing something you hate, getting paid for it. I'd rather have less money and do things I love.
So the main things you're doing then, what are Elle Wines, acting, and then like social media stuff?
Yeah, working with different brands and things, so different campaigns. So some involve just social media, some are like the Peloton. So Peloton's a great one.
Oh, yeah.
I flew over to London last year, spent a month
I'm still
there.
waiting for my Peloton bike.
Peloton to come through the front door?
Yeah. If you can arrange that for me, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do. I know a few people. But I got to create content that goes on the actual machines, the devices. Then I run, we just did last week, we did World Running Day. So had a group of people, I introduced people to some sort of like a ambassador spokesperson for the brand in Australia, and then also do stuff on the world stage with them, which is great. So when it's a mixture of events, speaking, running, filming, like they're the ones I like. There's a whole bunch of different things.
And it's a perfect brand fit for you too. Like it's so obvious that would be an alignment with you. You could be completely authentic in it. You also then the value for you isn't just then you're getting paid for it, but you're also like you're a person who likes to help people. And I think, not only in the chiropractic sense, but in the health sense, the gym sense and the fitness sense. And so being able to do something, it must be way more rewarding, being able to get paid as well, but also to then be able to be helping people in that sense of going on their fitness journey and trying to encourage them and on a really big scale too.
Yeah, chiropractic was always great. You can have a profound change in one session with someone, and so that was so rewarding. I'd have every half an hour, have someone come in and they can go from this to this. And that's very rewarding, you know, and especially over weeks, you see changes in people. But you are limited to one person every half an hour if you're lucky, if you're booked out, you know,
Yeah.
and it's person in, person out, person in. This way, I get to go out to thousands of people who you can, it might be you just energize their day a little bit more, you know, or if they do your classes more often, you can start to change their lives, change people's lives in many ways, be an inspiration, be a motivation to them, creating positive change. And I love that I can do that with that. That's what I love about acting. I'd really like to get into more stuff where, like, I mean, for me with acting, when I watch certain movies that really inspire me, they actually inspire me to create change in my life. That's again what I'd love to do through acting. And Peloton's a little bit like that, where you've got 9 cameras in some of those studios, and you're going from camera 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. There's cameras everywhere, and it's like you've got to bring the energy, and it's so much energy transfer. You're entertaining. It's like a podcast in a way, some of mine, where you're having conversation, you're entertaining, you're inspiring, and you're trying to put a smile on people's faces. You're trying to motivate them to push hard in their class. And it's just energy transfer between people. Sometimes it's really hard because you might have people in the class there with you, or sometimes most of the time, there's no one in the class. It's just a black room with a bunch of cameras. So you've got to visualize the people on the other end of that camera who aren't even there yet. They will be there in a week or 2 weeks when the class drops. They're not even there yet, you know, and you're trying to energize someone that's not there, but it's a certain skill. But I think the acting, everything twirls in to then when you watch it at the end of the day, you know, you can feel the energy coming through the screen.
Tell me a bit more about From Italy with Love. Like, how was the audition process and all that kind of stuff?
This one was sort of commissioned by Roku in America, which is a streaming service over there. And they had Adrian Horton Balon, who was she was the other lead alongside myself. She's an ex like Cheetah Girls Disney girl from 20 years ago. So they got her in as the lead. And then luckily I went through the audition process, and they paired us up, and we hit it off. So I got that experience, which was great. So first lead in a US production that was filmed here. It was meant to be set in Italy, but on the budget we had, they found there's this property in Sydney that looks like Tuscany. It's amazing.
Yeah, wow.
So we shot it all there. And when you watch the movie, everyone that's watched it, they don't realize you're not in Italy. Like, it looks just like, and they use a lot of B-roll drone footage from Italy to tie all the scenes together. So there is a lot of actual Italian footage, but our scenes are all set in Sydney. So you wouldn't know the difference. But that was a really good experience. It was at first lead carrying a movie, I guess, to a degree with Adrian. But the scary thing is you shoot so quick, you don't get to watch it. It was my first lead in full US accent. So I hadn't seen any of it. The first time I watched it was at the cinema with a full audience. And I was actually pretty nervous. I'm like, I don't know if this is going to land. I don't know what my accent's like. Am I believable? Is it? And Adrian's quite a classic American girl, big, oh my God, like over the top, you know, like so big. And then my character's more, he's Mason, he's a chef, and he's more grounded. And I wasn't sure. There's times where you feel like, you know, do I need to meet her energy? But no, that's not my character. So I think her energy here and my energy here, they meet each other, but it was hard. You know, I wasn't sure how that would work.
And how it looks on screen with the two of you, yeah.
Yeah, you don't know, and you never know how. Not there wasn't anything too heavy, but sometimes you don't know how emotion and things read on camera. You know, sometimes it doesn't read enough or whatever. So I didn't get to see any of it, and I just trust the director that he's like, no, I think I'm happy with that. And watching it on the big screen was good. I was proud of it. It was proud of my performance, and the accent was great. I had a couple of actors come up afterwards and say, mate, accent flawless. Usually they're like, you know, pick apart Aussies doing American accents, and like your accent was flawless. So that was good. Like I put a lot of work in that over the years, and so that was nice. So that was we had a premiere up in Brisbane, and then just about a week or two ago we had a premiere in Sydney.
In terms of success, like, how has the idea of success changed for you over time? And do you think you're a success right now?
I always try. I think we're, as humans, we're always chasing to be better, chasing to be better. And I do have to slow down and be really grateful for what I've got. And for me, success means, like I said before, like doing things I enjoy and being even more successful at it is being paid for that would be great. But even just still filling my day with things that make me happy is my version of success.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same as you now, like, or really trying to, I guess, relieve my own guilt in not being productive or not getting, bringing in big money or whatever, because I'm spending all the time taking care of Ari. But like,
Yeah.
if Ari's smiling, then that should be enough. I
Yeah.
should be able to take away from that day that Ari's happy. That's what I'm ultimately here for at this point in time. He's making him
Yeah.
happy, making sure he's healthy in the ways that I can. And it's been kind of a big learning curve for me in a lot of ways. I think back, like even just one generation for us, for our parents and especially their parents, the dads and the males in those worlds were culturally, societally disconnected from that. And I struggle so hard to imagine being in that position. There's some of it's so sad to think that that's what was expected in the norm is like the mother's got to take care of the kids and the dad's does the work and then comes home and
Mm.
eats dinner and goes to bed and whatever. And like that interaction with the kids, I can't fathom.
I don't know. There's sometimes where I feel like, I don't know if it's implanted because my dad was like that. He still showed up when he needed to, and it was probably
Yeah,
like more like quality time when I was with
mm,
dad, but not a lot of time.
yeah,
And I think that's one thing, there's probably the difference where you might have a dad who's just so disconnected, works, comes back, even when he's around the kids, he's still disconnected, versus someone who works in that provide for the family type of thing, in that type of relationship. But then when they're with the kids, they're the playful, they give what the male is generally meant to give. The males, the mother and the father give generally slightly different things, but
yeah,
it doesn't have to be at that level where dad works, sees the kid on the weekend and, but there's still different things you get. But I think, I play around with that. I'm really happy. I do look at it so many times. I'm like, how did my dad? I just feel like he just missed out on so much too. Like
mm,
there's so much. Yes, we had a lot of moments, but we could have had so many more with Anna and myself. Like there's still finding that balance where before it was swung one way, but what are the traditional norms, the roles that the mother generally takes compared to a father? Like just how it works around here. If I've got to get up on the roof and drill a hole the other day into the box thing to do some outlet valves, or if I've got to get up and trim the tree or trim the hedges and I'm hanging off a ladder with a like I'm the one doing that.
yeah, yeah,
We do have some arguments sometimes because there's, I look at our split. We've all got our things like Anna's got a business, I've got my business, and at the moment they don't make any money. They don't bring money in to the
mm,
family. They just cost us money. They're our little passion projects, but you can't really count them as like work for the family unit. So
yeah,
I try and look at it and go, okay, let's try and each of our ways, we want to try and put in 50-50 work for the family unit. But that may mean that if I'm out there trimming hedges and spend 4 hours in the yard, you might have to pick up and do like get the kids dinner ready or whatever. And it just means like in those bits, we probably do move into the traditional roles a little bit around. I'm going to do the
mm.
heavy lifting roles and she might do more of the domesticated, like more with the kids.
I remember for Neighbours, you had to step away because it was during COVID. I think it was what Anna was having Elle at that time, and you had to step away for a bit because obviously we're filming in Melbourne, they're in Sydney. Uh, how was that time for you? Because I imagine it must like for me, would it be from the outside perspective? Oh, that's an easy decision. Like be with Anna. Um, because we don't know what's going on, she's pregnant, etc. But I'm just knowing you as a person, I feel like that would have felt like a hard decision
Yeah,
at
that
the
was
time.
that was one of the hardest decisions I've kind of felt like. In some ways it was a simple decision, but also really one of the hardest decisions I've ever made in a way. So I lived in Sydney. I'd say goodbye to Anna on a Sunday, give her a kiss, and then I'd come back on a Friday. And I remember getting on the plane that Sunday and we landed and the guy next to me goes, checked his phone as we landed in Melbourne. He goes, we've just been locked out of the state. And I'm like, what? And they go, yeah, they've just shut down the state. I'm like, but I got a pregnant wife back in New South Wales. Like, I need to get back there. And initially, because I was a primary healthcare practitioner, I could get back. But then on the set of Neighbours, they were worried about things. And so they were going, hey, can you just like stay another week and don't go back? And so I ended up getting stuck down there for a month, not knowing. So, and this
Yeah.
is, Anna was probably like 7 months pregnant at this stage.
Yeah.
So I now, not knowing, didn't see her for a month. And then we had a little break. I had a month left of filming because I knew that I was going to finish because we were pregnant. But had a month left, but there was a 1 week holiday break or a 2 week holiday break. So I'm like, I have to go home and see my wife. And at this stage, then I could go home, but I had to like quarantine at home with her. But I'm like, at least I get to see her. And then when I got back there, they then introduced hotel quarantine just after I came back. So if I then went back to Melbourne, did my last month of filming, then came back, I would then be in a hotel for 2 weeks.
And potentially
And that was like
the
a month before she was giving birth. I'm like, I can't risk that. If she comes early or something happens and I'm not there for that birth, like I cannot risk that. You get that once ever and I can't risk that. So made that hard decision to quit a month early. And that was so hard because you're such a team on Neighbours. You don't want to let everyone down. And I know they can't rewrite it. The story's written. And it was just, I had to let them know on the Thursday. That stress from that, I ended up with the biggest cold sore that I've had ever, I think. And you could just see this, like how that manifests in your body. And ended up getting really sick then, but I had to let them down. And then they moved around pretty quick. I think I let them know on a Thursday. They had a new actor in by Monday.
Well, Don was living like around the corner, so it was super convenient for him. He was like, well, I'm not getting other work and this is down the road. So
yeah. It worked out well. But that was the story behind that. And then luckily 6 months later or a year later when everything cleared a bit, I got to come back for a month and kind of finish off, reprise the role. But that was such a stressful time and not an easy one. But when you're looking at, I would hate if something happened and I couldn't be there for my wife, or if she came early and I missed the birth. It's not worth it for me.
Yeah. How was it? Did you watch Don playing you on the show? How was that experience? That'd be so bizarre.
Yeah, it was weird. And I think there's little things like, you put so much work into the character in a certain way. And like one of the things I know, like I was really protective of my character. So he was going through this affair. I think it was with Dippy, and she had more reason to kind of do the cheating. Yes, he was emotionally a bit whatever, but like he was emotionally a bit down. So anyway, the whole point, we had a chat with the director and I'm like, when we do this kiss, it should be I go 10, she goes 90 kind of thing. It's not a like, hey, I'm just a bad man who's going to have this sleazy pash. It's kind of like they were both seeking each other emotionally, but Dippy was definitely more, she's the one who should go 90. She wanted to make this happen. So then he filmed that scene, and when he filmed it, I'm watching, I'm like, you should go 10. And then he sort of did the big thing, which then for my character, I'm like, no, that's not what my character would do. It's not him. He's not just rich guy has affair. There's so much more nuance to it. It's man is so emotionally lost and sad and this and that, and has a moment of weakness because he's connected with someone and he hasn't had connection for so long from the person who should love him the most. And that it's just, it's never as simple as like rich guy cheats on missus.
I think a lot of people look at Neighbours and they boil the storylines down to that, and they think it's silly or whatever because there's so many of like those high stakes moments. But in reality, because there's so many, and I think a good actor will carry those high stakes moments throughout the rest of them. You then have to figure out, okay, this high stakes moment's coming, and in this case, you cheating with Dippy. But you've got to make all of the other things that have happened to the character echo throughout through it.
Yeah.
And in the script, it's not there. It's kind of written with
Yeah.
the knowledge that you know that stuff, but it's not obvious. So for someone like Don stepping in, he's only got the information that he's got in front of him, really.
Yeah.
And so he's
Yeah.
playing to the scene for what it is.
Yeah.
But for you or I, having lived throughout the whole background, the backstory of the character, we're then trying to implement all these tiny little things that the audience may not even really be all that perceptive of.
There's a lot of protection you have over your character that, yeah, some things you're like, I would have done it this way, that way. He still did it well, but in his own way. So, because you feel like, yeah, that's my character. That's an extension of yourself. And so many, it was interesting in that role, like so many of things like mirrored, like at the same time, like my wife on the show was pregnant as my real wife was pregnant. And, my character was a wine mogul and now I'm a wine mogul.
I think we'd both like to be Pierce Greyson and have the $1 billion, whatever the
Yeah, I
is
don't have the
behind him
$1
too.
billion, but yeah.
But you got the charm and the good looks, so I guess that's not such a bad trade-off. So. And that must have been quite an experience for you too, because obviously on the show you lose the baby, and then at home, obviously, it's during COVID as well, and then how was it you having to face that kind of storyline while the real life reality was a possibility?
Yeah, it was a challenge, like, because initially, there's emotional bits where I remember I found it hard to get to the emotional level I wanted to get to in those scenes and those times. And I think it was a mixture of a few things, whether my body, like, I try in my head, I go, okay, play a what if. Let's not use what if my real wife was about like having a miscarriage. But then I'm like, I'm not getting there. Okay, maybe I'll try and use that. Okay, I want to make this clear to the universe. I'm not putting this out there energetically. I'm just acting. There's weird things you got to do, but it was a struggle. And then because it was the middle of COVID, there were so many stupid rules that I just did not agree with that would frustrate me. So like that scene, April is sitting under a bed with the blankets, and anyone normally in that scene would just want to put their hands on their partner and give them a hug and a cuddle. I couldn't cuddle her, couldn't touch her. They wouldn't even let me put my hands. They wouldn't let me put my hands on her legs with 3 layers of blankets because COVID might jump through the blankets, even though we're breathing on it. It was like, there was so much stupid stuff. So there's also a part of me that was frustrated with that I'm just there. I can't connect to this because I can't even, in real life, I would be touching my partner who's just had a miscarriage in the hospital. I can't even hug her and kiss her and do it. Like, it was just so many weird things like that I don't know, at the time, even though there's so much emotion at the time, it just wasn't, my body was like not letting it come through as much as I wanted to.
Like, I think I remember seeing comments saying that, like, they never let Aaron and David, like, touch each other anymore.
Yeah.
We had gotten so used to not being allowed to.
Yeah.
That you just, just the like the little peck or whatever that you'd add in a scene, or just grabbing a hand and that kind of stuff. All of that stuff, you had to get so used to blocking that instinct that it was bizarre then to actually do it again. It felt like you're doing something wrong. Like,
everyone's trying to, and people on set and the COVID marshal and all, they're all trying to sort of do the right thing. But then a lot of it becomes political. And the thing that used to frustrate me was like, you go into a scene, you couldn't hand a coffee to someone because you've touched the cup. And if you had to hand a laptop, they'd be like, make sure you only touch one side of it, they touch the other side of it. Yet every single person in that studio goes through the same door handle to get into the studio. It was silly things. And you're just going, why are we doing this? And then so you're already starting your scene frustrated going, why are we doing this? We've all just, every single person has just touched the same door handle. We all have each other's germs. Why are we doing this? Or like there was a scene where I had to put my hand on Dippy's, Sharon's, and they wouldn't allow us to touch. So I had to have my hand just here like that. And I'm like, well, why don't we just have the hand sanitizer right there and ready? Sanitize, do the scene, sanitize. And couldn't let it happen. There's so many things. And so all these things, you just like, I'm like, when things just don't make sense and they're just for political reasons, I just don't buy into it. And it just frustrates you. So that was some of the funny stuff that happened.
If Neighbours got renewed and like the two, I don't know if you heard, but there was sort of like two ideas that were rumored or whatever. Well, I was kind of set up this way that there'd be Robertson Towers, which would be this city thing. Obviously, Paul Robinson has some towers, and maybe Pierce would come in and own a tower or something, or
Yeah, yeah,
Ramsey Hills, I think it was going to be, where it'd be like a suburban thing, but in a different place.
yeah.
But I imagine, if it was the Robertson Towers, Pierce Greyson could appear, and there could be Greyson Towers in competition or something. Would you
Yeah,
return?
Grayson Towers has a nice ring to it,
Would you entertain the idea of coming back?
If it's shot in Melbourne, be hard to go full time, but I'd love to come back for a month or two. I could or a 3, but yeah, that would always be fun. Yeah, usually those things are a 2-3 year contract, and it means uprooting the family and doing that, or being. It was all right when it was just Anna and I, but now with kids, I'm like, yeah, as we were talking about before, being you know, not seeing your kids. I would see Anna. I'd get in at late on a Friday. We'd see each other Saturday night, and then I was out
Yeah,
again halfway through
yeah, that's
Sunday.
tough.
So we'd see each other for a day and a half, maybe 2 days a week for 2 years.
The last thing I want to ask you about, because we had Zimmer on like 10 episodes ago or something, or even
Yeah,
more, and you're on SAS with her.
yeah,
Um, and we heard from her the horrific experience she had of falling and then the hospital and blah, blah after that. You were there, obviously. How was it from your end? What were you guys being told much? Like, yeah, how did that whole thing unfold for you?
yeah. That I remember that day. She was like first or second off the cuff, and we were like, man, this should be like 20 minutes. What? It's now 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
Mm,
And then we hear an ambulance "Roo," coming, and we're like, oh
oh my
shit,
God.
something's up. And they weren't telling us anything. And we're like now an hour and a half in, and we're like, nah, something is really definitely wrong here. And then we heard the ambulance leave. And then finally they came and told us something had happened, and like, "Yeah, she's all right, but we're just gonna call off this exercise for today, and we're gonna head back." And we're like, shit, okay, well, okay, she's all right, which is the first thing. I saw her at the end, which she was in a wheelchair at the hotel once the whole thing had finished.
Yeah,
But I don't think we saw her anymore then. So, but it makes it more real for you because you're
yeah.
like, they didn't tell us exactly how it
That she'd
happened
fallen like
because
meters
you're also
from the
going like, because some
concrete.
of the stuff I remember on day 2, they got me up on a 60-meter building and just said, right, I'll get you to step over the ledge. And you're on like the top of like center point. So it's a sloped ledge and there's a
Mm,
sheer drop. And there's in the center is a little like area with a guardrail. And he
yeah.
goes, I'll just get you to step over the guardrail, face me, blah, blah, blah. And then I said, should I be hooked up to something first? And he's like, oh yeah.
Oh
And
my
you,
God.
and you're like, hang on, you're about to get me to step over this ledge, and the ceiling of this thing, the roof of this thing is all this shaling concrete it's a derelict building. So it's a 45-degree angle
Yeah,
of concrete all breaking and sliding off. And I'm like, you were just about to get me to step over onto that without being hooked in. And then you start going, was that a trick? Or, are you just human
are
and
you
make
testing me
mistakes?
or yeah?
Yeah, and sometimes humans make mistakes, and there's a camera in their face. They got the pressure of it was day 2, so they've got pressure as a
Yeah,
performer, kind of in a way of doing. And so, there's things where you go, like mistakes happened, and that's what happened
yeah,
with Zima. So along the way, you're like, and she could have nearly died. She fell like 7 meters on the concrete,
yeah.
and supposedly was falling head first, but hit a rail that flipped around, so she didn't break her neck. So, yeah. So there's everything you go into after that. You're like, I know there's a show and there's safety here, but like this is still very real, and I got to look after myself.
You questioning like I can't imagine that you wouldn't have gone into every exercise then like feeling like, okay, I've got to double check everything here to make sure that like it feels like the bare minimum safety thing is being done and that like I'm not jumping off the thing or whatever and the thing hasn't been
A
attached or
lot of
something.
trust, because so many of these things you don't get to check everything. You're in,
Yeah.
and there's that you just have to go, right. I either have to put a lot of trust into this and just hope and pray and in a way, but
Mm.
yeah,
Because I was
It
watching
was,
that season, and then I knew that Zima, the next episode was going to be Zima getting hurt, and I couldn't watch it. Like, and
yeah.
I didn't see the end of the season. I know you finished the whole thing,
I
right?
was so interesting, like watching, I ended up winning the season, but like watching the edit compared to what happened in real
Mm,
life, there was a lot of things in the edit that they tweaked. And I was really interested to see what they would show of Zimmers, because they also can't show liability to a
yeah,
degree, or lack of. And so there's lots of interesting little things that happen in the edit that um, was frustrating to watch sometimes. I know on the surface level, I look fit and healthy, but underneath, got chronic issues, chronic back pain. Like a lot of this was to see if I could get through this thing. I've torn 3 muscles off the bone of reconstructive surgery, this, that, like lots of things over time. And I wanted to see if I can get through this as a 40-year-old and not break more stuff and see what I'm really made of and all the other stuff. And I've got a lot of fears. I'm scared of heights, scared of a bunch of stuff. And there were some big characters in that show, so they really focus on the big characters. But I was disappointed in that you basically hardly saw me for the first 7 or 8 episodes. And I wanted to go on there. I'm like, what do I want to be? I don't need everyone's like to go, oh my God, but I want to be, if my younger self was watching, I want to inspire that younger self. But when you don't hardly get shown at all, it's hard to inspire anyone when nothing gets shown. And I don't know
yeah,
whether they just think that, because I did really well. I basically didn't fail a test, but in saying
yeah,
that, there was always a struggle. And I think to see the struggle and the fear and me overcome that just still wasn't good enough for them, or didn't play into the story that they wanted to play into. And so they would just show me, and also they would like, I was treating people, I was laughing with people, I was part of adding to the group. I believe the group energy, every time they showed me, I was in the background. Either it'd be while I was having a shower with my shirt off. So I became they kind of wanted to paint me as the kind of pretty boy that was there to, I don't know, add a bit of old man eye candy or something. I don't know, to the thing. The psych said like they thought you would go out earlier. Usually the bigger guys don't have the endurance. And initially they wanted my story to be, because my wife did it the year before, that
yeah,
my wife did better than me. And I couldn't,
yeah,
all brawn, but couldn't do as well as my wife. And so I
yeah.
had to make it incredibly hard for them to get rid of me, which
Mm,
I'd done a lot of work up here and physically and pushed through a lot and managed to get there. So, but it was just along the way. You watch it and you go, what's the journey you'd like someone to see? And this wasn't sort of shown. And then they started like construing stuff, level 7, day 7, day 8. They started fabricating stuff that wasn't actually happening to create this kind of
mm,
thing like I was getting ahead of myself and getting a bit cocky, and then started making mistakes. And then they've had to pull me back around, which was all concocted bullshit. And they even used CGI in one of the scenes where we have to walk out, me and Craig will often walk out together and then have to hang. As soon as we kicked the
yeah,
rope out from under us, it wasn't set up right, and it went bang, and it ripped the rope straight out of our hands. We both dropped. And so I'm watching that when I'm watching it back, and they kept making out, they're like, Craig beat, or number whatever beats the younger one out to the middle, and then Craig makes it here faster than the other. I'm like, why did they make this? That never happened. This is weird. And it was the day that Craig was going out. Craig's a great guy, but
yeah,
got along really well. But it's just not what happened in the day, And then they
yeah,
go, right, hang. And they've cropped into a shot where you see from our waist. Once they go hang, I'm waiting for us to just drop. We dropped instantaneously because it was like a slingshot. So when we kick, because you're standing on one rope and hanging onto another, and you kick the
yeah.
rope from under, it went boom, and it hit the rope out of our hands straight away. So
Right.
we instantaneously dropped. Anyway, they go hang, and then they crop into the shot, and we're still hanging. I'm like, what? And then they pull back to a wide and they show us still hanging. And I'm like, where's the rope under our feet? They digitally got rid of it. And you can tell that it's weird because we're hanging, but our feet, when you stand on a rope, your feet are
Yeah.
like that. When you normally hang, your feet just
Splayed out
hang
wide.
straight down.
Yeah.
Our feet are like this. They digitally edited out the rope to make it look like a big wide shot of us hanging. And I'm like, that's the bit from before while we're still waiting to be
Wow.
told. And then they showed me, they cropped in, showed me drop first, then Craig drop and going, Craig just beat the younger recruit, blah, 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 and just totally fabricated that whole thing. My thing, not that you need that for the ego, like maybe there's times, but I'd love to, if someone could come on and say, what you did in there inspired me. That's what I would like to get afterwards, rather than I loved you. You're that scene you did with your shirt off. You're so hot. Like I don't want to hear that shit. That
No.
does nothing
Well,
for me. I
you
want to
can. You
hear.
just want to have a balance in it, right? You want to have a bit of that. I mean, it's not bad to have someone tell
I've
you that
had
you
enough
got a
of it in
ring
my
on you.
life, so I'm like, I want to hear. I want to hear what you did, the challenge there, and you overcoming that. Like that inspired me. Or you pushing through when you injured yourself and you didn't give up and you kept going, that inspired me, or whatever, like I've had chronic back pain as well, and I know what it's like. It's debilitating, and for you to get through that inspired me, and when you don't get a journey shown, and it kind of like I popped up all of a sudden, you see me in the last episode and I win the thing and you're like, oh, that was great. Like the last episode was like kind of good to watch, but aside from that, you're like, where was the journey? And I realized
Yeah,
there's a lot of big characters and you got to make a show, and it's not all about me, but like there was,
yeah,
there was not much shown at all. So you're like,
yeah.
oh, it would have been nice to get a bit of a journey, and a real journey, not a fabricated one. So that was
No, yeah.
there's one thing. I loved the experience when I was on it and I gained so much from it, but watching it in the edit was a total different thing in a way. I definitely learned a lot and proved a lot of stuff to myself, which was good. And I try and take that on and tap into that a lot, you know? So yeah, doing it, when do you get the chance to test yourself to that level in Jordan, in the Jordanian desert, jumping out of Black Hawk helicopters and in and out of speeding jet boats and this and that? Like, it's horrible when you're in there. Horrible. There's so much stress and discomfort. You hardly sleep. I lost 7 kilos in 10 days, almost a kilo a day. Like it's horrible. But when you come out of that, it's those tough times that shape who you are. So it was afterwards a good experience. But if I had to do it again, it would not be lightly.
Thank you so much for coming on. This is a really, really fun chat. I think people will find so much of this super interesting.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you, mate. It's good to jump on and good to have a chat. And hopefully, like I tried to do on SS, I inspire someone to make some positive change in their life.
Huge thanks to Tim for coming on today. There was so much in that chat that really hit home for me. On a personal level, that conversation about redefining success as fathers and just moving away from the constant hustle and realizing that true success is literally just sitting in the backyard, scratching rocks to make paint with your kids, and actually being present in that moment. And on the professional side, hearing him defend the integrity of his Neighbours character, like arguing that the cheating storyline had to be a 90-10 split for the kiss was just brilliant. And having to deal with somebody else doing that and not doing it. And oh boy, it really just shows how deeply we care about the psychology of the characters we play, even when the edit tries to flatten it all out. Also, listening to Tim talk about the SAS incident, I mean, just seeing the ambulance leave and not knowing, that would have been terrifying. And if you haven't heard the other side of that story, you definitely need to go back and listen to our interview with Zima, where she details exactly what happened during that 7 meter fall. It's harrowing. And look, surviving the extreme chaos of a show like SAS is one thing, but surviving the absolute marathon of the acting industry takes a totally different kind of endurance. So if you enjoyed the behind the scenes Neighbours talk today, dive into our archives. We've got episodes with true industry veterans like Annie Jones, Rebecca Elmaloglu, Lucinda Cowden, Alan Fletcher, Stephen Dennis, Sally Ann Upton, and Ryan Maloney, just to name a few. Wow, it's really actually cool to look back and see that there's so many. We talk about exactly how to navigate the relentless demands of a long-running show in those, and you can find them all, plus the rest of the archive over at justtack.com. Now, this was actually the final Neighbours guest we recorded before our Patreon went live. So if you want to be able to propose questions for me to ask our upcoming Neighbours alumni guests, make sure you jump on our Patreon. It's the best way to get involved. And speaking of the people running this show, I've got to give a massive official shout out to Carl B. Carl is our very first Patreon subscriber at the Peeping Tom's Boss tier, which officially makes him our first Patreon executive producer. Carl, this means you now have the executive authority to order Tom to get you a coffee. Now, Tom, we expect that to be delivered hot and not from a bin. I also want to send out a genuine thank you to all of you who have joined our Patreon. It means the world to us that you are willing to put your hard-earned dollars behind what we are doing. And Tom and I are working super hard to get the best guests we can for you all. And every dollar and subscription or follow helps in that pursuit. So thank you so much. That was Tim Robards, and I'm Just Tack.